So welcome everybody to this latest video on 160 Maths, and in this video we'll be walking through the AQA GCSE Higher Paper of June 27, Paper 2, which is a calculator paper. So let's get started on this June 17 Higher GCSE Paper 2, which is a calculator paper. So looking at question 1, it says circle the decimal that is closest to 39 over 800. Now as this is a calculator paper, all you need to do is just type in 39 over 800, which gives us an answer of 0.04845, so 0.04875, and then we just need to match up which of these is going to be closer, and the correct answer you should have is 0.049. Then moving on to question 2, it says circle the area that is equal to 36 millimeters squared, and you can see all we've got is centimeters squared. Now for this, with these area conversions, what I would always recommend is you want to think of two numbers that multiply to give you 36. So you could have 6 millimeters by 6 millimeters if we just had a square, and that would give us 36 millimeters squared. Now if I then convert each of those into centimeters, so that's going to be 0.6 centimeters and that's going to be 0.6 centimeters, and then work out the area, it's going to be 0.6 times 0.6, which again, if I type that into my calculator, so 0.6 times 0.6 gives me an answer of 0.36 centimeter squared. So it's going to be this option here. Then moving on to question 3. So it says work out the midpoint between these two coordinates. Now to work out the midpoint, all we need to do is simply add the x ordinates and divide it by 2. So we're looking at 5. And then we add the y ordinates. So we've got 12 plus 2 divided by 2. Gives me 7. So the coordinate I'm looking for is 5, 7. Then for question 4, it says here is a sequence, and we've got a linear sequence, and we just need to work out the nth term. So again, work out the difference, so subtracting 8. And then what do I need to do to get from 8 to 90? Well, I need to add 98. So I'm looking for minus 8n plus 98. So negative 8n and a positive 98, which gives me the second option. Then moving on to question 5, it says a code has 4 digits. Each digit is a number between 0 and 9, includes those numbers. Digits may be repeated. The code starts 541. Amy knows that the last digit is odd but not 7. She then chooses a different odd number at random. What's probability to choose the correct one? Well, looking at all the odd numbers between 0 and 9, we've got 1, we've got 3, we've got 5, we've got 7, and we've got 9. Now with regards to this, we know it's odd, so we can eliminate 7. So then we've got 4 other options. Probability it's going to be correct is going to be 1 out of 4. Now moving on to question B, it says the 4-digit code is changed to an even number. The first digit is 3. How many possible codes are there? Now if it is an even number, basically it means that it's going to end either 0, 2, 4, 6 or 8. So looking at this in terms of the second number, well, there's 10 possible numbers that could be. There's 10 possible numbers that the third digit could be, and there's only 5 possible numbers that the last digit could be. So if I do 10 times 10 times 5, gives me an answer of 500. Now moving on to question 6, it says complete the table of values for y equals x squared minus x minus 2. So for this, what we need to do is use the x value, substitute it into the equation and find the respective y values. So if we colour code these y values, so for this one what we're doing is substituting minus 2. Now if you're using a calculator, I would strongly recommend that you replace the x with a negative number, but put the negative number in brackets. So we've got minus 2 squared minus minus 2 minus 2. So that then becomes 4 plus 2 minus 2, which is 4. Then for this one, we're substituting minus 1 in. So y equals minus 1 squared minus minus 1 minus 2. So that then becomes 1 plus 1 minus 2, which equals 0. Then for the third one, we're substituting in positive 2, so that then becomes y equals 2 squared minus 2 minus 2, so that becomes 4 minus 2 minus 2, which becomes 0. Then for question 6b, it says draw the graph of y equals x squared minus x minus 2. So for this, all we need to do is plot the coordinates that we've done in the table of values. So here we've got minus 2, 4, which is here, minus 1, 0, which is there. At 0, it's minus 2. At 1, it's at minus 2. 2, it's at 0. And at 3, it's at positive 4. Now, the next thing that's left for us to do is to connect those points. Now, the key thing to focus on is this bottom bit here. Now, when you're connecting the points, you need to remember that this is a parabola, and you need to make sure that when you're connecting the minus 2 values, or the 2 dots at minus 2, make sure that you don't have a flat bottom, as we call it. So again, what you then need to do is just accurately try and draw a parabola through those points, in which I end up with something that looks like this. Now again, this can be quite tricky, so again, if you're always struggling to connect the points, then all you need to do is just join them up with straight lines, like so, and then with your pencil just smooth off those rough edges, and you should be able to then get a much smoother parabola. Then for 6c, it says write down the x coordinate of the turning point. Well, the turning point is this point here, and we're only interested in the x ordinate, so it's this number here, which is 0.5. So question 7, it says use trigonometry to work out the length of x. So again, first thing we want to do is label the triangle. So we've got hypotenuse, we've got opposite, and we've got our theta. So which trig ratio uses O and H? Well, that's going to be sine. So I've got sine theta equals over H. I've got sine 72 equals x over 8. Take the 8 over by multiplying, so I've got 8 times sine 72. Again, if I put that into my calculator, 8 times sine 72, I get an answer of 7.60845213. Now the question doesn't ask me in terms of rounding, so I could just simply copy the answer on the calculator. I certainly wouldn't round it to the nearest whole number. At worst, I would write it to 1 decimal place. I'm going to write it to 2 just to play safe, and that's to 2dp. But always state what you've rounded it up to, and try not to go for a whole number if your answer is a decimal. Then moving on to question 8, it says Lizzie goes on a car journey. For the first 30 minutes, her average speed is 40 miles per hour. She then stops for 15 minutes, and then she completes the journey at an average speed of 60 miles per hour, and the total journey time is 1 hour. Now for 8a, it says draw a distance time graph for her journey. So if I just zoom out so we can see the information and the graph all in one screen, and let me just adjust the screen so we just a little bit up. So looking at this first bit, we know that Lily is driving for 30 minutes at an average speed of 40 miles per hour. So we're starting at the origin, and we know that she's driving for 30 minutes. But the question is, we need to ask is how far is she travelling, because obviously we're going to need to know the distance. So if she's travelling at 40 miles per hour, then in 30 minutes she's going to be driving 20 miles per 30 minutes. So that means that in the 30 minutes, if she's driving at 40 miles per hour, she's going to be travelling 20 miles. So for 30 minutes, and she's travelling at 20, so that all I then need to do is draw a straight line from that point. Like so. Then it says that she stops for 15 minutes. Now that's represented with a horizontal line. We need to have that for a length of 15 minutes. So from 30 minutes, that's going to go all the way up to 45. Let's try and not do that with a highlighter. So from 45, drawing a straight line. And then we just need to make sure that that line is connected. There we go. And then the last bit is that she then completes the journey at an average speed of 60 miles per hour, and the total journey time is 1 hour. So if she's travelling at 60 miles per hour, then that means she'll do 30 miles in 30 minutes, and she'll then do 15 miles in 15 minutes. So then 15 miles from 20 is 35. And we need to go up to 60, so it's going to be there. And then all I then need to do is just draw a straight line. Let's actually draw a straight line from that point to this point here. And there we've completed our distance time graph. It then says for 8b, write down the average speed of the total journey. So for this, the average speed is distance divided by time. Now we just need to look at the units that we're using for speed. So we want the distance in miles and we want the time in hours. Now in terms of the total distance, well, the total distance is 35. And the total time in hours is 1 hour. So 35 divided by 1, is 35. H. Now for question 9, it says the table shows information about some CDs, and we've got our things there. And it says CDs chosen at random. The probability that it's rock is 1/20. Work out the probability that it is jazz. Now for this, so in terms of the rock, now we've got two pieces. Now if the probability is 1/20, so for example 1/20, I want to try and get the numerator so it's 2, which therefore means that we've got 40. And that's how many CDs there are in total. So then from this, what we then need to do is add up all of the 3 boxes. So we need to add up these 3. So what we've just worked out is that there's a total of 40 CDs. So then if I then do 2 plus x plus 2x plus 5 equals 40, simplifying all of this, I get 3x plus 7 equals 40, and then take the 7 over to the side, in which I get 3x equals 33, so x equals 11. So if x equals 11, then the number of rock, we've already been told, equals 2. Pop is going to be 11, and jazz is going to be 2 times 11 plus 5, which is 27. Now the question asks for the probability for someone picking a CD of jazz, so it's going to be then 27 over 14. Does that simplify? No, so I leave that as my final answer. If you want to leave that as a decimal, then that's absolutely fine as well. Now the question 10 says the pie chart shows information about voters in an election. 3,360 more women voted more than men. Work out the total number of voters. Now looking at this, we know that if the angle for men is 110, then the angle for women is going to be 250 degrees. Now the difference in vote must be sort of proportional to the difference in the angle. So the difference in voters is 3360, and the difference in the angle is going to be 140 degrees. So what we'll do is work out how many degrees are there for one person. So if I then do 3360 divided by 140, I work out that 24 voters equals 1 degree. And how many degrees are there in a circle? Well, it's 360, so I just got to do 360 times 24, and again if I do that on my calculator, let's have a look what I should get. So 24 times 360 gives me an answer of 8640. Now moving on to question 11, it says write these numbers in descending order, which means basically big to small. And what you want to do is you then want to probably convert each of these numbers into what they actually represent. Now that one's absolutely fine. So this one is going to be pretty big. It's going to be, well actually it's not that bad. It's going to be 9,560, but this one is going to be a humongous number. It's going to be 564,508.44. So in terms of which number is bigger, well, it's going to be 9.56 times 3 to the 10. Then looking at the other two numbers, it's going to be 9563 and then 0.56 times 10 to 3. Now, a question that I always get asked is, what happens if I wrote down these numbers instead of the original numbers? Again, you should still get the full marks for it, but I would always try and write your answers using the numbers in its original form. Usually works with fraction, decimal percentages ordering. So looking at question 12, it says A, B, C, D, E, F are points on a circle. It says circle the line that is the diameter of the circle. Now what I want to try and do is find a 90-degree angle. And the 90-degree angle is going to be this one here. Now if that's 90 degrees, then the side opposite that 90 degrees is going to be the diameter. So the diameter here is going to be A to D. Now moving on to question 13, it says to make one cheese sandwich, Gina uses one bread roll and 2 cheese slices. A pack of 15 rolls costs X amount, a pack of 20 cheeses costs £2.15. It says she's going to buy enough packs to have exactly twice as many cheese slices as bread rolls, and to make more than 100 cheese sandwiches, work out the least amount she can spend. So for this question, what we need to do is, now we can't split packs, and what we want to try and do is make sure we're making just over 100 cheese sandwiches. So if I just write down what they look, so if I just write bread rolls and we've got cheese slices. So looking at this, we want the numbers of these to be more than 100. So for example, and these have got to be in multiples of 15, and that's got to be multiples of 20. So we're thinking of, and we need to have twice as many cheese slices as bread rolls, so this needs to be double of this. So if I've got let's say 16 100, or let's say 30 and 90, so 30 and 60, that equals 90, so that's not going to be enough. If I then had 45 and that's going to be 90, which is not going to work because I'm going to have to split brackets, because obviously I can't get 90 into 20, so that's not going to work. So I can only really work in nominations of 30 and 60 for me to have double. Here we're going for 60 and 120. Now I would say that's probably going to be the most economical option for us to have at least 60, well, we need to have more than that, actually, that's a lie, because as we're going to have 100 cheese sandwiches, we need to make sure we've got 100 bread rolls, so that's going to be 120, and that's going to be 240. So it's actually, this is the combination that I need to go for. So to work this out then, so to have 120 bread rolls, I'm going to need 120 divided by 15 packs of 15. So if I just quickly type that into my calculator, 120 divided by 15 gives me 8. So here the bread rolls cost is going to be 8 times 1.88, which if I word that out on my calculator gives me an answer of £15 and 4 pence. Then for the cheese, well, I need 240 slices, so that's going to be 240 divided by 20. 240 divided by 20 gives me 12. I'm going to need 12 packs, so then 12 times 2.15 on the calculator gives me £25 and 80 pence. So then all I then need to do is add those two total amounts, which comes up to a total of £40 and 80 pence. Moving on to question 14, it says the graph shows the cost of some taxi journeys, and we need to work out the formula for C in terms of n. Basically what this question is asking is for the equation of the line. So to do this, what I need to do is first of all work out what the gradient is going to be. So what I need to do is pick two distinct points coordinates. I'm going to go for those two, and then work out the gradient and the height of that. So for this, it's going to be, length is going to be 5.5 minus 2.5, which gives me sort of 3. And looking at it going across, it's going to be 5. So here, my m, or the gradient, is going to be 3 over 5. Now in terms of the c, where it crosses the y-intercept, that's going to be at 2.5. And there I've got my two components to then work out what y equals mx c is going to be, because it's a straight line. Now, there's no indication about how they want me to write the formula, so I can pretty much choose exactly how I want to do it. There's no asking for the coefficients to be in terms of decimals or as whole numbers. So looking at this, then I can either write the equation as y equals 3/5 x, or n actually say, get rid of the letters. Here we've got c equals, and it's going to be 3/5 of n plus 2.5, or 5/2. And so there's different ways. You can either write c equals 0.6 n plus 2.5. So anything along those lines would be absolutely fine. Moving on to our next question. So it says question 15. It says Sammy is trying to work out the exact value of y using Pythagoras. It says here is her working out, and then the question's asking for part A is what error has she made in her working? Well, going through the steps, her error is here. So when you have got 2y, so 2y squared equals 4y squared, not 2y squared, which is what she has done. And then for B, it then says Katie works out that y equals 5. Y cannot be 5 because the hypotenuse should be the longest side, and the other sides are longer than 5 centimeters. Is Mel correct? Well, let's go back to the diagram. So, well, actually, the hypotenuse is not 5, it's 2y, so it's going to be longer. So, is she correct? No, because the hypotenuse is 2y, not single y, so is 10, not 5 centimeters, or whatever the units are. Let's get rid of the units because it's on it. 8 centimeters. So the next question 16, it says here is a box plot. It says circle the median value. Now the median value is basically where the line inside the box is, and so counting the scale, working out what scale it is, it's going to go up in 2s, so 28, which is the first option. So looking at question 17, it says P is a rectangle with length of 50 centimeters and a width of x centimeters. Q is a rectangle with a width of y centimeters. The length of Q is 20% more than the length of P, and the area of Q is 10% less than the area of P. Work out the ratio of x to y in its simplest form. So to get started on this question, let's first work out the length of Q. Now how do we do that? Well, we're going to add 20% onto the length of P. So we've got 50 times 1.2, which is 60. So this here is 60 centimeters. Now in terms of the area, this is 50x. Now if this is 10% less in terms of its area, then the area of Q is going to be 45x. If I then work out what the area of Q actually is, well, that's going to be 60y, which basically means that these two things here should be equal. So 60y equals 45x. Now from this, what I can then do is simplify that in its most simplest form. So here I've got 4y equals 3x. Now, because the question's asking me to work out the ratio of x to y, it makes more sense for me just to flip these two things around. So we've got 3x equals 4y, and then because I want to convert this to a ratio, I can just look at the coefficients of x and y. So I've got 3 to 4, leaving my final answer as 3 to 4. 18, it says that a school has 86 teachers, 42 are male, 44 are female. A third of the male teachers have blue eyes, a quarter of the female teachers have blue eyes, and we just need to complete this Venn diagram. So when dealing with a Venn diagram, what you want to try and do is always start in this middle area here. And what does that middle area represent? It represents males with blue eyes. Now we know that a third of male teachers has that, so we're going to need to work out a third of 42. So again, if I just do that on my calculator, third times 42 equals 14. So this is going to be 14. Now, the next thing we then need to do is then do some subtractions. So for this number here, that's going to be the number of men, which is 42. Take away the ones that I've already got, which is minus 14. So I've got 42. Take away 14, which gives me 28. Now from the females, I've got a total of 44 females, in which working out the rest. So in terms of a quarter of them have blue eyes, so females with blue eyes is going to be a quarter times 44, which is going to give me 11. That means that this here is going to be 11, and we also know that there's 86 teachers in total. So let me just pick a colour I've not chosen. Let's go for red. So for this number here, it's going to be 86 minus the numbers I've got in my Venn diagram, so minus 28, minus 14, minus 11, which leaves you with an answer of 33. Now moving on to question 18b, it says one teacher who has blue eyes is chosen at random. Work out the probability that they are male. So in terms of blue eyes, well, that's looking at this population here, in which there are a total of 25. Now, of those that are male, it's going to be 14 of them, so the answer then is going to be 14 over 25. Question 19, it says that Rana sells 192 cakes in the ratio of small, medium, large, and we've got 7, 6, and 11. The profit of one medium egg is twice the profit of one small egg, and the profit of one large cake is cake, and the profit of one large cake is 3 times the profit of one small cake. Total profit is £532.48. Work out the profit of one small cake. Right then, so first thing we need to do is work out how many of each size cake does she have. So work out amount of each size. Now how do we do that? Well, we add the numbers in the ratio, so we've got 6 plus 7 plus 11, which gives us 24. And then we're going to divide the total number of cakes, so it's going to be 192 divided by 24 equals 8. So then we've got 7, 6, 11, small, medium, large, times each of these numbers by 8. $88, 48, 6. So there's the spread. Now in terms of the profit, well, if we imagine that one medium cake is twice the profit as one small cake, so if the profit is X for a small cake, then the profit for a medium is therefore going to be 2x, because obviously it's twice the amount of profit. And the profit of one large cake is 3 times the number of one small cake, so that's going to be 3x. And then from this, what we then need to do is multiply each of these. So this is going to be 56x, it's going to be 96x, and this is going to be 3 times 88, which gives me 264x. So if I add all these numbers up, so I've got 56x plus 96x plus 264x, that's going to equal £532.48. So adding all of these three numbers up, I get 56 plus 96 plus 264 gives me 416. So I've got 416x equals 532.8. Gives me x as being equal to, let me just work that out, we get £1.28. So in terms of the profit for one small cake, the answer is going to be £1.28. Moving on to question 20, it says work out the sides of angle x, and again this has got non-right angle triangle, and we're looking at angles and sides, so it's going to be trig, and this is going to be sine rule trig. So first thing we need to do is label the triangle, so we're going to call this A, that's going to be little a, and that's going to be B, that's going to be B. So in terms of substitute numbers in the formula, and again just quickly write that down, so I'm going to be using A over sine A equals B over sine B, in which you could flip those numerators and denominators the other way around, and that's fine. So here we've got 6 over sine x equals 14 over sine 125. So if I do a bit of cross multiplying, I get 14 sine x equals 6 sine 125. Take the 14 over, so I've got sine x equals 6 sine 125 over 14, and then what I want to do is inverse sine the answer. So if I do just that, so 6 sine 125 divided by 14 inverse, and then do the inverse sine of the answer, should get an answer of around about 20.55, 20.6 to 1. Moving on to question 21, it says solve this looks like a quadratic to 2 decimal places. So the fact it says that means I'm going to go straight into using the quad formula. Now before you go on to solve any quadratic, you need to make it equal to 0. So I've got 5x squared minus 10x minus 4 equals 0. So here a equals 5, b equals minus 10, c equals minus 4. So x is going to equal, and then substitute it in, I get minus minus 10 plus minus square root minus 10 squared minus 4 times 5 times minus 4 all over 2 times 5. Now personally I would simplify that first. So here we've got 2 minuses make a plus, so that's 10, plus minus, and I've got 100 minus 4 times 5, which is 20, times minus 4 is minus 80, over 2 times 5, which is 10. So substituting and simplifying it, I get 10 plus or minus root of 180 over 10, and this is where I then type it into my calculator, which I should get the answer of 2.34 or 0.3 minus 0.34, and they're the answers to 2 decimal places. Moving on to question 22, it says a ball is dropped vertically and falls d meters in t seconds. The d is directly proportional to the square of t. The ball drops at 45 meters in the first 3 seconds. How far does the ball drop in the next 7 seconds? So let's have a look at this. So first of all, let's set up our parameters. So we know that d is directly proportional to the square of t. So then working this out, we replace the proportional symbol with equals k. And then to work out k, we substitute these numbers in. So when d equals 45, t equals 3. So here we've got 45 equals 9k. So k equals 5. So the formula then is going to be d equals 5t squared. Now the next question then says how far does the ball drop in the next 7 seconds? So what we then need to do is add these two numbers up. So what we're wanting is t equals 10. So d equals 5 times 10 squared, which will give me an answer of 500. Now, what I then need to do is, or to see how far the ball dropped in the next 7 seconds, is then take that away from the first 3 seconds, which was 45, which gives me an answer of 455 meters. Moving on to question 23, it says we've got a vector diagram. It says is BCD in a straight line? So if BCD is in a straight line, then B to C equals a factor or a common, so just write K to C to D. It's either B to C has got to be a factor or a multiple of C to D, and that's what I need to first find. So if I first work out what B to C is, now B to C, what I need to do, I need to do 5A minus 2B minus 3A minus B. And simplifying all of that, I get 2A minus 3B. Then if I then work out what C to D is, well that's going to be 3A plus B plus 3A minus 9B. And simplifying all of that, I get 6A minus 8b. Now is that a factor of that? Well, I need to multiply by 3, so the answer is no. BCD is not in a straight line. Then something along the lines of that, again just explaining the fact that it's not a factor, as BC is not a factor or multiple C to D. So something along those lines would be absolutely fine. Moving on to question 24. So it says 48 students completed some homework. The histogram shows the information about the times taken. Work out the estimate of the interquartile range. Now for this, what we need to then work out is whereabouts does our interquartile range actually lie. Now in terms of this, what we need to do is first of all work out how much there are in each one. Now 48 students, so the lower quartile is going to be a quarter of 48, and a quarter of 48 is 12, and the upper quartile is going to be 3/4 of 48, which is going to be answer 36. So what I need to do is find the times of the 12th person and the 36th person. So first things first, what I'll do is work out the area of each of these bars. Now to work out the area of each bar, just times the length by the width. So I've got 1.6 times 5, which is 8. So there's 8 people there. 10 times 0.8 is 8. Then 10 times 0.12 is 12. And then it'll be 20 times 1 and 20. So to find the 12th person, I'm going to need 4 people from this middle box here. So I need to find the 4th. So what I need to do is split this box into 2. And if I split that box into 2, then that's going to give me 10. So that's my lower quartile value. Now, so then to work out the upper quartile, I need to work out 36 people, where the 36th person is going to be. Now if there's 48 people, then what I need to do is 48 take away 36, which means 12. So I need to take away, so I need to minus 12 people from this box. Now if one person represents a row of a single box, then I just need to take away 12 from 45. So 45 minus 12 is going to give me 38. No, 42 is going to give me 45 minus 12 is going to give me 33, which is about there. So my interquartile range is going to be 33 take away 10, which should give me an answer of around 20. Is my final answer for that one. Then moving on to question 25, it says the diagram shows a logo ABE and DCE are congruent triangles. ABCE is sector of a circle, E with centre E. Show that the area of the logo is 510 centimeters squared, 2 sig fig. So first things first, what we need to do is work out the area of each of these. So if I just label this 1, 1 and 2. So the area of 1, and if I just draw that triangle out, so here I've got 38, I've got 15, 26. So for this, because I don't know the height, I need to use half AB sine C. So A equals 15, B equals 26, and C equals 38. So substituting that in, what do I get? Well, I'm going to get 0.5 times 15 times 26 times sine 38. I type that into my calculator. I get an answer of 120.0539877. If I multiply that by 2, because I've got 2 of them, and just because it's on my calculator, so the 2 triangles area is going to be equals, the total is going to be equal to 240.10774. In terms of the sector, well, first things first, what I need to do is work out what the radius is. So for the sector, I need the radius. And how do I do that? Well, I'm going to use the cosine rule. So this is 38, this is what I'm trying to find, this is 15, and this is 26. So what I've then got is I've got x squared equals 15 squared plus 26 squared minus 2 times 15 times 26 times cos of 38. And so x squared equals, and so I'll just quickly type that into my calculator. Gives me an answer of 286.35 blah blah blah. And I keep on my calculator and just square root that answer. It gives me an answer that x equals 16.922 to 3 decimal places. So this length here is 16.922. So then working out the area of the sector, and the formula I use for that is going to be theta over 360 times pi r squared. Theta in this case is 108. So it's 108 divided by 360 times pi times 16.922 squared. So typing that all into my calculator, 108 over 360 times pi times the radius squared, I get an area of 269.880064. So to get the total area, all you need to do is add this number to this number, in which then I get so the total area is going to be 240.1 plus two significant figures. So again, so 240. Let's just round these measurements up. We get 240 plus 270, which equals 510. That's what I got on to prove. So then moving on to question 26a, it says sketch of a quadrilateral ABCD is shown and ABC is enlarged by scale factor of b with scale factor of third. Circle the vertex that is invariant. Now invariant means that it does not move. So here if the center is at B, then basically which one is not going to move? Well, clearly it's going to be B because that is going to stay the same. The sketch of the quadrilateral PQRS is shown and it says reflected on y equals x. So y equals x is here. And circle the vertex invariant. Which one is not going to move? Well, it's going to be P because P is on the reflection line, so that is not going to move. Then working out with question 27, it says the function hx is equal to a cube root of x. All the values of all of x. On the grid, draw the graph of the inverse function. Now, if h of x is equal to the cube root of x, then to work out the inverse function, I make the function equal to y, and then make y the subject. So here I'm going to have y cubed equals x, and then once I've got that, then replace the y with x. So the inverse h of x is going to be y cubed. So the graph I want to plot is y cubed. So from this, what we then do is, well, 0 cubed is 0, 1 cubed is 1, 2 cubed is 8, and then looking at the reverse of those, so minus 1 cubed is minus 1, and minus 2 cubed is minus 8, and what you then want to do is just try your best to draw a cubic y equals cubed, and make sure that you join the points up and it's as smooth of a curve as possible. Then with 27b, it says for all values of x, f of x equals sine x and g of x equals x plus 90. On the grid below, draw the graph of the composite function fg of x between the values of 0 and 360 for x. So for this, what we're going to end up with is fg of x is going to equal sine of x plus 90. So from this, what we then want to plot is this. Now this is basically a shift of 90 degrees to the left. So if I plot sine x, and the graph of sine x looks like this, and what I want to do is I want to shift this graph 90 degrees that way. So 90 degrees that way is that this point at 0 is now going to be here. This point here is now going to be this. So what it's going to look like is, so we're starting at 1 and we then just go up in terms of 90. So it's actually going to represent this graph, which we should end up with something that looks like that. And that concludes the end of this paper. So what I'll do is, obviously if you mark your paper, I'll put the grade boundaries in the description below so you can see what you've scored on this individual paper. So then to work out the upper quartile, I need to work out 36 people, where the 36th person is going to be. Now if there's 48 people, then what I need to do is 48 take away 36, which means 12. So I need to take away, so I need to minus 12 people from this box. Now if one person represents a row of a single box, then I just need to take away 12 from 45. So 45 minus 12 is going to give me 38. No, 42 is going to give me 45 minus 12 is going to give me 33, which is about there. So my interquartile range is going to be 33 take away 10, which should give me an answer of around 20. Is my final answer for that one. Then moving on to question 25, it says the diagram shows a logo ABE and DCE are congruent triangles. ABCE is sector of a circle, E with centre E. Show that the area of the logo is 510 centimeters squared, 2 sig fig. So first things first, what we need to do is work out the area of each of these. So if I just label this 1, 1 and 2. So the area of 1 And if I just draw that triangle out, so here I've got 38, I've got 15, 26. So for this, because I don't know the height, I need to use half AB sine C. So A equals 15, B equals 26, and C equals 38. So substituting that in, what do I get? Well, I'm going to get 0.5 times 15 times 26 times sine 38. I type that into my calculator. I get an answer of 120.0539877. If I multiply that by 2, because I've got 2 of them, and just because it's on my calculator, so the 2 triangles area is going to be equals the total is going to be equal to 240.10774. In terms of the sector, well, first things first, what I need to do is work out what the radius is. So for the sector, I need the radius. And how do I do that? Well, I'm going to use the cosine rule. So this is 38, this is what I'm trying to find, this is 15, and this is 26. So what I've then got is I've got x squared equals 15 squared plus 26 squared at minus 2 times 15 times 26 times cos of 38. And so x squared equals, and so I'll just quickly type that into my calculator. Gives me an answer of 286.35 blah blah blah. And I keep on my calculator and just square root that answer. It gives me an answer that x equals 16.922 to 3 decimal places. So this length here is 16.922. So I'm working out the area of the sector, and the formula I use for that is going to be theta over 360 times pi r squared. Theta in this case is 108, so it's 108 divided by 360 times pi times 16.922 squared. So typing that all into my calculator, 108 over 360 times pi times the radius squared, I get an area of 269.880064. So to get the total area, all you need to do is add this number to this number, in which then I get, so the total area is going to be 240.1 plus two significant figures. So again, so 240. Let's just round these measurements up. I get 240 plus 270, which equals 10. That's what I want to prove. So then moving on to question 26a, it says sketch of a quadrilateral ABCD is shown, and ABC is enlarged by scale factor of b with scale factor of third. Circle the vertex that is invariant. Now invariant means that it does not move. So here, if the center is at B, then basically which one is not going to move? Well, clearly it's going to be B, because that is going to stay the same. The sketch of the quadrilateral PQRS is shown, and it says reflected on y equals x. So y equals x is here. And circle the vertex invariant. Which one is not going to move? Well, it's going to be P, because P is on the reflection line, so that is not going to move. Then working out with question 27, it says the function hx is equal to a cube root of x. For the values of all of x. On the grid, draw the graph of the inverse function. Now, if h of x is equal to the cube root of x, then to work out the inverse function, I make the function equal to y, and then make y the subject. So here I'm going to have y cubed equals x, and then once I've got that, then replace the y with x. So the inverse h of x is going to be y cubed. So the graph I want to plot is y cubed. So from this, what we then do is, well, 0 cubed is 0, 1 cubed is 1, 2 cubed is 8, and then looking at the reverse of those, so minus 1 cubed is minus 1, and minus 2 cubed is minus 8, and what you then want to do is just try your best to draw a cubic y equals cubed, and make sure that you join the points up and it's as smooth of a curve as possible. Then with 27b, it says for all values of x, f of x equals sine x and g of x equals x plus 90. On the grid below, draw the graph of the composite function fg of x between the values of 0 and 360 for x. So for this, what we're going to end up with is fg of x is going to equal sine of x plus 90. So from this, what we then want to plot is this. Now this is basically a shift of 90 degrees to the left. So if I plot sine x, and the graph of sine x looks like this, and what I want to do is I want to shift this graph 90 degrees that way. So 90 degrees that way is that this point at 0 is now going to be here. This point here is now going to be this. So what it's going to look like is, so we're starting at 1 and we then just go up in terms of 90. So it's actually going to represent this graph, which we should end up with something that looks like that. And that concludes the end of this paper. So what I'll do is, obviously if you mark your paper, I'll put the grade boundaries in the description below so you can see what you've scored on this individual paper.